ODO is On Demand Orthodontist. It's a company that from beginning to end is going to help us delegate something else in our lives that I think is a frustration for a lot of people. So as we go more into this digital world, all of us are aware that there's increased screen time with that. Increased screen hours don't seem okay. So this company will help you as an orthodontist submit the records and kind of some treatment notes, and then they will fully do the setup for you.
Now, I know I tell you all the time, today we've got a special guest, but today we have somebody who's like really near and dear to my heart, somebody who's actually been in my home and played with my dogs. And so put your hands together, give them a beautiful Orthopreneurs welcome for Dr. Alyssa Carter. Hey, Alyssa.
Hey, Glenn. Thanks for the warm welcome. I love your dogs.
Yeah, Cody and Finn love you too. So, yeah, for those who don't know, we live probably about 60 miles apart. Yeah, and right now she's coming to you from yet another CE course. She is the most well-traveled orthodontist in North America, guaranteed. But she lives about 60 miles from us. And a funny story I'll start it off with real quick is the time Doug Shaw, my partner, the time his assistant almost ended up at your office on her way to work, which is still one of the greatest stories ever. She was newer to the office. She trusted her GPS, and somehow she said, "I'm up by Sherman, Texas," which is like where you practice. And we were just like jokingly going to tell her, well, then go work for Dr. Carter and leave us alone or something like that. And you don't know how somebody gets 60 miles off track on their way to work. But I always laugh about that because we were literally like so close to just telling her, you're only about a mile away from Dr. Carter. She could probably use some help today. So start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and how you ended up where you are right now.
I do remember that day. Doug texted me and said, "Hey, I got an assistant that might be coming to work for you today." So I was going to take him up on the offer. But
I know, it was so funny.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in a pretty small town, Sherman, Texas, which is where I practice now. And my father was born and raised there, and his parents and grandparents. So kind of a little family there. My mom and dad met in college at Austin College in Sherman, and he somehow convinced her to stay. So I was born and raised there. And then went to Oklahoma State University for undergrad. And then I went to Baylor, Texas A&M for dental school, and University of Florida for residency. And then I came back home and started working for the practice that actually treated me when I had braces.
That's awesome. By the way, did you know that Sherman, Texas is where they built the Sherman tank?
I did not know that.
It's not true.
Okay. I didn't know that.
We're recording this on April 1st. And so, if I wanted to, I could just do that the whole time. But no, it's definitely not. But it sounded like pretty cool, like Sherman tanks come out of Sherman, Texas. Cool. So go Cowboys, go Gators, go Bears, go Aggies. I don't know how many more teams you could possibly root for. What's the Sherman high school team?
Bearcats.
There you go. You got 5 teams you could root for right there.
Right there.
And so how big is Sherman? Just to give an idea to people out there, how big is the town you came from?
Growing up, I think there was around 20,000 people, but I think there's around 35,000 now. So
okay.
It's growing.
So it's not
but
tiny.
Well, I actually grew up in Bells, which is 12 miles outside of Sherman, and it was around 900 to 1,000 people.
There you go. Now we're talking small town. Did you have your own high school there, or did you have to go to another one?
We had our own high school.
So how many people in your graduating class?
About 60.
Okay. Not bad. Yeah, I've spoken to people.
It was a bigger city for where I was.
I remember talking to Tim Shannon, and he was telling me he had 20 people in his high school graduating class. Whenever I make fun of his music taste, he always reminds me of that. And so, cool. So I'm a guy who grew up Long Island, thick of New York nearby, right? And, big cities don't scare me. But you kind of get lost a little bit. What is it like? The closest I've ever worked, by the way, I worked a mile from my dental practice when I was first working in New York, in Roslyn, New York, when I worked for Dr. Perry Perzoff. I lived a mile from his office. And I got to tell you, I could not stand it because I loved my patients, but I couldn't go out to dinner with my wife if I was alone, it was great because I could talk to people the whole time. But if I tried to get from a restaurant, like from the front door to the back table where the waiter was trying to seat us, it could take 20 minutes. And there's my wife with me, and she got tired of it and is like, what is it like to go back and practice where you grew up?
So it is similar to that. Anywhere we go in public, we're going to run into someone that we know, or a patient, or just someone I grew up with, or family friends or somebody. And there's a beauty to that. And I think the pros outweigh the cons. Being raised in that town, I moved away to college, and I don't think I appreciated the way I was raised until I met people outside of where I was raised that were raised differently. And it really has a mentality of where I grew up as it takes a village to raise a child. And so, friends, parents, and teachers, and everyone just kind of took care of everybody and made sure everyone was where they needed to be. And there was such a trust level because a lot of people are related, but, if my mom was at my sister's game and my dad was doing something with my younger brother and I was in another town for my basketball game or track meet, it was no big deal to have a teacher or a parent, get me to another location where I needed to go. And then when I would come home from breaks and run into people and they'd be like, oh, how's it going in college? Like they actually acted like they cared about me after I walked out of the school.
Nice.
And to come home to that was a beautiful thing. And I really started appreciating the effect that had on me. And I give them a lot of credit to my continued success to go to dental school and push myself to be successful in college because I knew other people were still cheering for me.
That's awesome. That's good. By the way, side note, what were your sports in high school? I have to know.
Well, it was a small town, so I probably did more than I was truly talented for.
I know that.
So I pretty much did any sport, but my favorite sports were, my favorite sport was track by far. I loved track.
High jump, right?
I did do high jump, but I was best at the 400-meter relay, 800-meter relay, and the open 400.
Right on. Sounds like something that's good for somebody who's high energy, right?
Yes. So they had to wear me down somehow.
So I've spoken to a lot of people who've gone back to their small town, right, in practice. Do you ever feel one of two things? Do you ever feel like a guilt that you're doing really well financially when you're in the small town? Which I've heard from people. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying I've heard people say two things. I've heard them say, I'm making a really good living. So there's almost this guilt that I could have the biggest house in town. I could have the biggest piece of land in town. And I drive a nice truck or I drive a nice car. And on the other side of it is that you may not be doing those things, but people perceive you that way as, look at her. She's making all that money now. Do you ever feel either of those two?
I actually I do feel sometimes, we haven't changed our house or our car situation since I've graduated. And so, my husband has a different truck, but I have not. And
your truck, by the way, is the greatest truck. Her truck is good old Texas gal truck. It's a solid 3 feet off the ground. And I have a picture of my wife, who's 5'1" and change, and Alyssa, both Alyssas, driving in the car. And that when you drove us home from the airport that time, and it is the greatest picture to see these two gals who are 5'0" driving in this truck. You have a lift kit on that truck?
It has a leveling kit, yeah.
Yeah, I figured. So sorry for interrupting, but yeah. So he's got his own truck. You've got yours.
But I don't, I think there's more perception about the money that might be coming in that I don't see because of all of my student loans and business loans and things like that. I do wonder what people think about that and what the perception is versus the reality, and trying to stay humble about that situation. And at the same time, when I get the opportunity to be positive and educate, what we've put in to get to where we are. And fortunately, where we are, a lot of people saw my journey. And so they knew that I was gone for a lot of years and missed a lot of things in the community. I have the most guilt actually, though, about when I used to come home from school and even residency, I would always volunteer. I would go to a volunteer activity. I would give my, the $20 I had left from my student loan money to whatever was needed. And now when people ask us to donate to a cause or sponsor something, it is genuine, but I feel like it's almost self-supporting versus the reasons that I always had wanted to do it. And it takes sometimes the juice and the fun out of it. And I hate that. So I've had to work with myself saying, just because you have a business name tied to it doesn't mean that it's still not genuine. And that's been hard for me because I enjoy giving and laughing and to give, and not for, hey, I'm giving because I want my name on this event. And unfortunately, I think there's a perception there that that is the case, even though
Perception from others.
Right. And I used to give without my name attached to it all the time, and people just didn't know about it. So I hope that people know I do it because I genuinely believe in whatever that cause is, but it will never be the same. And that's hard.
Right. It won't be the same. And the biggest issue I think you face, no matter where you are, is that once your presence is known beyond your family or a couple of people, then there's going to be a bunch of people who know you by name, and they don't know you personally. And the ones who know you by name can make suppositions about you. They can say, oh, is she the blonde who drives that big truck, right? Or they categorize you in a certain way. And suddenly they start saying things or doing things that aren't necessarily true about you. And you know what? It's okay. Let it go, right? Because in your heart, if it's pure and you're doing the right thing, who really cares, right? It just, because if that money you're giving helps somebody, that's the nature of the gift, right? The gift is for the giver. And so I know you're genuine about this, and I know it's hard. And but there you go. You answered my question. What's it like to go back to a small town? But that's awesome. Speaking of small towns, you have to leave that small town for all the CE you do. Raise your hand out there if you're listening. If you've been in a CE course with Alyssa Carter, come on, raise your hand. I know you were. It's like Doug Shaw, my partner, and I. We're both pretty high energy guys. We're both pretty committed to CE. We travel a fair amount. I travel a ton. No matter how much I travel for CE or to go visit an office, you dwarf it. We've talked so many times about how does Alyssa do it? Because you run a successful practice. How many days a month do you work on average?
It depends on the month, but probably between 8 and 10.
Okay. So you work 8 to 10 days a month, and legitimately, how many weekends a year do you think you're away from home?
Oh.
I have a guess in my head, but I want to hear what yours is.
Like 70%.
So that would put us about 30, what is that, 35 or so? 36.4, I think would be the exact number. But I was going to say over under at 40 was going to be my over under.
There we go.
Right? So you think about that. And the crazy part about it is there are people who you'll see them take a trip somewhere and they'll take a photo in front of someone's office, or they'll go to someone's office and they're taking a 10-second picture just to take the ride off, right? And then there are people who love traveling to like OP Summit, right? Where they're going to a destination, have fun, to meet friends. And I know that's what you do. You love going and meeting people, but you legitimately go to real CE. Like you go to mastermind groups, you go to like clinical courses. I can't even imagine. How do you do it? How do you manage? Or do you just love doing it and you make it a priority?
I love doing it. I love the reward I get for doing it. So every time I go to a meeting, it keeps me grounded, keeps me humble, because anytime you do something that works out well in your practice, or that you have a frustration, like you go to a meeting and you learn someone else has that frustration, but you also learn that someone else does everything so much better than you in every aspect of your life. And so it just keeps you always wanting to grow and better yourself. And I never want to come to a place where I'm complacent and content with where I am. I think my husband would love for me to be in that place and just like slow down and stop. But unfortunately, it's not my nature.
Yeah.
So I get so much reward by those opportunities. And yes, it does require travel and it requires me to be away, but it makes me a better human. It makes me, when I am home, a better leader for my team, a better orthodontist for my patients. I can't imagine doing things the way that I was doing them when I graduated residency. And I loved my residency and felt like they gave me such a great foundational education. I'm so forever grateful for our program. They did an amazing job at letting us run 3 chairs our third year and letting us use high-end technology and teaching us like really important biomechanics. So that was important to have that foundation. And then I was able to build upon it. And I still feel like I'm, at the very bottom of the hill I'm climbing. And maybe the day I retire, I'll feel like I'm on the downhill slope, but I think I make it a priority, and I strive to be like my mentors, like you and Doug and other people that inspire me.
Well, thanks. Well, just to let you know, it goes both ways, because I've been so inspired by you. You know what inspires me the most about you? This is going to be the Alyssa Carter love show here, right? Or you just fanboy. Um, what really inspires me the most about you isn't the fact that you're so committed to CE, because I am impressed by that. It's really, really impressive how much CE you do. It's not how successful your practice is, which it is. It's not that you've maintained this small town gal mentality of morals and ethics and treat your fellow man the way you want to be treated, because that's awesome as well. What really inspires me the most about you is your positivity. You are so positive. I've never, ever, and we've been to you go to every Orthopreneurs RD event, everyone. Have you ever missed an RD event out of curiosity? Hey everybody, tickets for Summit 2025 are on sale now. Take a listen to what some of the attendees from Summit 2024 had to say.
This is one of the most unique, most impactful meetings that you can go to as an orthodontist.
It has everything compared to other meetings. Entertainment, the content in the meeting, the speakers, the food.
I learned a lot. It helps the practice, so it really kind of checks all the boxes.
You hope to get something out of it that is going to pay dividends for years to come.
Definitely return on your investment.
We take back a lot to our office.
You get information that you probably don't get easily at any other meeting.
But I'm missing my first one since I've joined 4 years ago in April.
You're missing one. So 4 years, what's that, 15 to 20 meetings? But again, you're always, wherever I see you, whatever you're doing, even online, in print, you're always so positive. And we all have tough days. There are days where that assistant, just told you she's leaving, or the patient's mom just doesn't get it, or dad, and they're sort of giving you a really hard time, or we all have them. And I honestly think of you and I'm like, I got to stay positive, because this woman is always, always positive. And it's amazing, Alyssa. I know it's not just me. I know it's a lot of people. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I owe credit to something I heard in residency. And someone said, if you walk around trying to live life by the 2% of the people that will abuse you or hurt you, then you'll never be happy. And if you walk around and forget about those 2% and just focus on the 98% of things that will go right or that can make you happy, then, it's going to be better. And that's how you should focus on anything you do. So instead of saying, well, what about if a patient does this? Or what about if a team member does this? Okay, they're going to do it at some point anyway. And so I just have tried to reframe that. And I've also tried to take a big look in the mirror. And almost every time that something frustrates me in my practice or my life, personally, professionally, I look in the mirror and then I realize that I could have probably done something better or changed the outcome of that situation by other choices that I failed to make or should have made.
Amen. I mean, I found myself blaming somebody in my office yesterday. I was talking to somebody else actually, and they were asking what was going on. And why did this not work out? I said, well, and then I stopped and said, you know what? Maybe it was just on me. Maybe I didn't lead the way I should have. Maybe I didn't train the way I should have. There's all these things. And so, but people like you, I just know that if you get angry, I don't want to be around, right? How often do you you ever get angry in the office, or you're pretty kind of chill and relaxed and just goes easy?
I'm usually pretty relaxed and chill. I'm OCD. And so I have a little bit of that in the back burner. I get frustrated, and I think the team just knows when I'm upset more than I never scream or yell, but they sense that I'm not in my best place. If someone tries to cut corners, is lazy, or if they get defensive over a situation that I'm not mad about,
right.
Someone does something wrong in my office, I'm not mad at them. I don't get mad at them. What I do is I say, hey, I've clearly failed to show you what my expectations were here, or I think I totally skipped this step in teaching you guys how to determine which attachments are for refinements, whatever it is. And then, but what I don't want is for someone to become defensive and give me an excuse of why it happened.
Right.
That irritates me, and they can tell. I'll stop talking. I'll let them talk. And I sometimes just ignore what they said, and then I move on to the next point. Yep. I think that's the sign. They know. I'm like, okay.
I've been guilty of that as well. I learned about it early in my career, because people like you and I, or you and me, who are gregarious, outgoing, talkative, right, emotive, when we get quiet, it scares the heck out of people, because they're wondering uh-oh. And so I was told early on, I don't know if this is the right word, but it's called stuffing. That's what it's called. Somebody said, I had a patient of mine who I was very close to, and she noticed it years, I'm talking 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago. And she says, "You're stuffing." I said, "What?" And she says, "Yeah, I saw you just shut down. You became very quiet and you moved on to the next thing." And she goes, there you go. We learned something today about ourselves.
Now I know.
It could be totally wrong. So if anybody's out there who heard it wrong just now, call in and let us know. So I know you have a very successful practice. You're an amazing clinician. Let's talk a little bit about your practice. Let's talk about some of the things that help you on a daily basis. You're an avid Spark user, right? And you've spoken for the company, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were an Invisalign user. So what do you see? I always ask this question out there, and it's hard to get a lot of straight answers when you start asking about aligners because it becomes so defensive, right? You see people online, I hate this one, right? But why do you like Spark? What about it speaks to you? What makes you feel good about using it versus many other brands, not just Invisalign, not just Align, but what other brands, what are the reasons you like it more than the other brands that are out there?
So that's a really great question. I'm kind of eager to, try things. And if it doesn't work out, like worst thing that happens is I just go back to what I was doing. And our practice, we were having a lot of frustrations with Invisalign, different aligner company, doesn't matter what it was. And just a lot of choices and options and confusion on the team for them having to understand. So I really like to delegate things to people that are willing to help and do it better than what I have the time and energy to give it in my practice. And, time is so valuable in our lives and time is money. And so if I can pay someone a certain amount to take a headache out of my life, it's worth every penny. And kind of off track for a second. One reason we use OrthoFi is for that same reason. People say it's so expensive. And I'm like, well, first, you're probably not collecting at what you think you're collecting at because there's so much buried in there and you don't know that. Number two, the fees you pay them are incredibly reasonable compared to what any other industry would pay for something in that type of service for us. Right. And they have to worry about hiring and firing employees, and they have to worry about all the things that I don't want my practice to have to worry about. And so same thing with Spark. They are related to a company that I also am really engaged with, Ormco, as you guys know. And Ormco has always been such an amazing company to our practice and our team. They're part of our team practically. So if we failed to order lower right sevens because we messed up the count and then they come tell us they're back ordered, our rep will call other practices or bring the few he has in his bag and then replace them for himself. And just, they have helped our practice and our efficiency. So same thing with Spark. When I need something, I pick up the phone and I call my person, and I don't have to be a 1% provider to have my own tech. And if I see a frustration, they jump on Zoom for 1 hour or 3 hours and we go through hey, this is what I expect for a level curve speed. And I want you to teach my team how to do this. And that doesn't matter if I'm using 3 cases a year or 3,000 cases a year. They're going to do that for every doctor. For the patient or for the team, it's simpler for the team to understand. There's only a couple levels. They love it. There's more direction and instruction built into the platform. And so it's easier for them to understand. But for the patients, I've also personally experienced they're more comfortable and more clear and they wear them. And that results in better tracking and it results in less burnout. And that means less refinements and chair time for my practice and less computer time for my eyes doing setups. And so it has really just completely changed our business experience as a whole for the team, the patients, and ourselves. And saying this in a humble way, I sometimes almost feel bad for people who haven't tried something else. There's other products out there if someone doesn't like Ormco or whatever it is. I know there's other companies out there. Go try one of them and see what they're willing to offer you, because there is so much that these companies have developed for us at our fingertips that we don't take advantage of because we're scared to change and we use our team as an excuse to change.
Right.
And doing those things, especially the simple ones, like just changing an aligner brand, you really don't have to do anything, right. Can just completely transform your practice. And it has for us.
Yeah. You make a great point there. You hit on a lot of things, Alyssa. So I'll hit one or two of them. But I was listening to a great Illuminate Ortho podcast with Chris Setta and Chris Feldman, the Chris squared, Jacksonville C squared, right? And Chris Feldman, who we both know and love him. Yep. He said, look, I tried Damon for a year and I threw myself into it and I tried to learn everything I could about it, but it just didn't work for me. And so I went back to twin, and I'm a twin guy. And I respect that so much more than somebody who says, oh, I would never go Damon. It sucks. It doesn't work. The hype is ridiculous. And I'm not a Damon doc yet. Maybe I will be one day, right? But my point is, I love what Chris said because he tried it, gave it a shot, didn't work for him, and he went on to something else, and he gave it a fair shot. Regarding OrthoFi, I do have a financial interest in that company. I am a user of OrthoFi. I want to make that clear up front, but you're right. Like the fees you're paying for it are not insignificant, but I don't need to have a full-time financial coordinator running a check every month or running a credit card every month. Or if they decide to leave for any number of reasons, now I got to go train somebody and deal with it. It's so wonderful. You know, now I'm partnering with Smile Doctors, so I don't deal with it on the same way we used to. But and you still have to have somebody financial to overlook it, right? To see stuff and make sure that people. But everything from the insurance predetermination and not predetermination, but talking to patients, to the onboarding of the forms, and like everything about it. I would just encourage everybody out there. If you haven't looked into it, just look into it. Learn more. Make an educated decision. Don't just do it because we're saying to do it. Not that you would, but go learn about it because the slider is what most people think of. And for me, that's like one of the least important parts of it, right?
I forget about it sometimes that's like the initial thing I knew about it. And so I agree with that statement. And I have no financial interest in OrthoFi. If they want to hand me a check, I'll take it. But
now, would you like one? I'll go. Hold on, let me check it. I think I might have one here. No, sorry. I gave that check to somebody else. I apologize.
I do not have financial interest in them, but I'm a big believer in their product because of that delegation. And I think one reason that our practice is excelling in other areas is because we have taken what other people are building to do better than us in our practice. And like you said, like not having to retrain with people moving so often now. I mean, not having to retrain someone and, you know, it's an employee that like doesn't call in sick, doesn't fight with another employee, doesn't come in frustrated because they had to wait on insurance for an hour. Like that's out of your office. And that delegation allows me to do bigger and better things and other people in our practice do bigger, better and things for our practice that no one else right now can do for us.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And it's funny because you hit on something again just now, which is listening to that podcast with Chris Feldman, right? Nobody's who's ever been with him for 90 days hasn't stayed forever, right? Think about that. He's been open for more than a year or two. Nobody who's stayed longer than 90 days has not stayed with him forever. Like that's a crazy concept. Now, part of it has to be where you practice and part of it has to be luck of the draw because I don't know about you, Alyssa, but like yesterday, I hugged one employee who I love to death, who loves being in the office, who's getting married and moving out of the country, right? I've got another one who's leaving me in 2 months to go to dental school. I've got a third one who's moving up the chain and decided, you know, he's now going to be working with a company in the ortho space because we've trained him so well that, you know, like they're moving on to better things, which is awesome.
You're so proud of them. Like you have to be so happy.
Like I'm giving him a cake. I'm giving him a big hug. We're crying together. I'm seeing their babies when they come in with their, you know, second child or something. Like it's amazing to do this, but my team does not stay around forever. There's just no way. Am I just like an anomaly?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but the problem is if you hire good people, if you hire the kind of people you want to have in your practice and they're trainable and they're positive minded and smile forward individuals, odds are they're going to move on to something even better. Not always, right? We all have great people who stay assistants or TCs or whatever forever. And that's amazing. But like, have you seen people move up in your practice into bigger and better things in their lives and follow their dreams?
Yeah, so I do think some of that is geographically driven. So in Dallas, you know, someone can work for an orthodontic practice or they can go work for so many huge, huge corporations in a completely different just change in life. You know, in a smaller town, there's maybe not as much opportunity now with virtual positions that's expanding, but maybe not as much opportunity to be in person for people. to float that transition as easily. And so maybe I've been a little blessed in the fact that I am in a smaller town and, like I know everything about my team. I know about their families. I care about their kids. I know their teachers because we also are connected with them. And I think that kind of builds like this sense of family, and that comes with the geographical location that I'm in. So kudos to Chris and Dr. Feldman for that. That's just totally incredible. And I respect that so much. I think in Dallas or any city that's larger, you probably will struggle. And there's things to building loyalty, and you find those loyal employees, but I think that has to do with more someone's personality. I'm a loyal person, so I'll sacrifice to stay with someone if I believe in them. And I don't know if that's as common, or I shouldn't even say as common. I just don't know that that's been something that the generations coming into our practices now to apply have been invested in, because if you think about the last few years of their lives, like there's no loyalty to anything.
Right.
It just all got cut off. And so they don't know right now, like, I think they're confused on where they're supposed to be. So I try to give them the benefit of the doubt and just encourage them and tell them they have so much more potential than they know, and build them. And some of them want to grow, and some of them I don't think have a lot of self-growth, want. And that's okay. Like if they're content where they are, that's okay. But a lot of them, I just feel like they just don't know. They've never been told that, hey, you can make a career here. Like we want people that want to make a career here. I don't want someone that just wants to come be an assistant. Like I want someone that wants to make this practice their career and do anything that they think that they can do for the practice will make it happen if that's their dream. It's
beautiful. Yeah, it's a great culture. And that the same thing in us. The problem is we do too good of a job of it because they end up going to dental. I have two going to dental school.
That's so awesome.
One of them is going for a master's degree. Like clinical assistants historically in I don't have many clinical assistants who go for a master's degree, right? It's just unbelievable. It's great, but it hurts because you got to go rehire somebody at that point, right? But you stay friends, and you just, for me, I've stayed friends with most of my assistants over the years, and that's the fun part of it. And most people have worked in my office. But you hit another word. It's another Alyssa. Like if this were a drinking game, every time Alyssa says a certain word, right? You said virtual. And so tied to virtual today, you can't pull apart the idea of efficiency, right? And I know efficiency is something, it's a buzzword, right? It's the synergy, so to speak. Everybody's using the word synergy a few years ago. Now it's efficiency. And it was vulnerability for a while, right? So now it's efficiency. And you and I both love Jeff Kozlowski and what he talks about. And he really single-handedly started driving that. I know a lot of the folks who've been in ortho for a long time will tell you, oh, so-and-so 30 years ago talked about efficiency, and that's great. But when you really watch Jeff Kozlowski talk about it nowadays, it really drives it home a great deal. And I know you're a big fan of that. Talk a little bit about efficiency in your practice, because I know you do use remote monitoring software. And you speak a little bit for dental monitoring. So talk a little bit about some of the things you're using in your practice to help with efficiency.
So I'm a systems person, and if I see a problem or frustration, I always try to go back to that and figure out, okay, tell me the process and where can we change it to get a different solution. And in that, I was presented an opportunity to start using remote monitoring through a study for a company, and then really dove in, because I'm a nerd, I guess, to all the things that didn't pertain to the study about the remote monitoring. Right. Like, wait, like we can do this in our practice. We could change this about our practice. It really becomes, if you want to get into it, a treatment philosophy. And so we do use dental monitoring, and that's a brand, but it's really the power of their AI, artificial intelligence that they have built and are continuing to build, that has changed my practice. And so remote monitoring is one thing, checking someone's teeth or taking pictures. And like I said, I like to delegate. So I don't want something to put more work on my plate. I want it to be taken off. And with our AI, you can set parameters of what you want to be alerted on. And it's all automatic, and it's all in your words because you typed the messages and your grammar. And same thing as OrthoFi, it's an employee that works 24 hours a day for me. They never quit. They they do everything accurately. When they show up to work for you or when you sign on with them, they're fully trained. And so talk about efficiency. But what it has done, speaking of the word vulnerable, is it's made me very vulnerable because you see the things that walk out of your practice in the first 7 days. And then you're like, holy crap, like I am failing as a leader. Like that's your first, and you have to be open to that. Like if you see that 45% of your brackets that are broken are lower right sevens, clearly there's an isolation issue before you, like it's not that every patient's breaking a lower right seven, it's you. Right. And you see a few patients walking out with open gates, or you see just things that you probably later would be like, well, what did patient do?
Man, you blew my mind when you gave that webinar recently in the RD group where you talked about open doors. Like, because you're using, to be clear, people tend to think of dental monitoring as a plastic, monitor. You use it for both wires and brackets and aligners. And, you mentioned in that webinar, which I did not record the way I should have.
We'll redo it. I'll get it for you.
I feel horrible, but my point is, you were talking about like open doors, like you would see open, like, which we always wonder, like in efficiency systems, like in my practice, I had a couple of assistants for a period of time where, I know that cases took longer because I spotted things before they left that were, and did you, out of curiosity, did you find that the open doors were related to specific assistants or was it everybody?
The ones that had multiple open doors, even worse, right? Yes, you fine tune. You're like, okay, one or two assistants just aren't understanding how to close the doors. And then I think about it, I'm like, I don't even know that I've ever taught them that. Like, I just expect them to know that from the other assistants.
Yeah, close the door.
And so, it's on me as the owner to do that. And so I can't even be frustrated, but it taught me like I need the total amount of waste and that is naturally built into our orthodontic profession that we are completely unaware of because it's just the way that orthodontics works. Like you work up, speaking of the new Demand Ultimate bracket coming out, like this is going to eliminate this, but you work up like 5 wires to get this wire that like somehow engages in a rectangular slot, and then it still has a ton of slop. And so you're compensating with bends for that slop, whatever it is, and then it's just waste. All of that is waste, but it's normal. So we plan for it like, hey, your treatment will take 20 months. And, 10 of those months, actually, you're going to find out are complete waste when you start looking at this. And so if a patient has an open gate or a tooth that just doesn't get a tie put on it, if it's a swim bracket, walks out, not only did you mess up what they're going to come in for next time, you can't do what you were going to do. You might have to drop down a wire because it's naturally built in and you kind of accept it, even though it frustrates you a little bit until you get it like that thrown in your face every time the patient scans. And then you start realizing, okay, how can we completely change our treatment philosophies for efficiency to make this different? And that's what we are starting to do. It's awesome. Simple that instead of power chain, can you use a scintilloid coil to close a space? Yeah, because you're going to know exactly when that space is closed and you don't need to replace the power chain. So it changes everything. And I have not mastered it. And I hope to continue to go that way. And I hope that I can help develop protocols and share them with any orthodontist to make their lives easier and kind of give them, the few years we've been working on it, just hand that to them. Like, why do I make them go through that if we've already gotten that figured out? So
that makes perfect sense. I appreciate that. Now we're getting a little short on time, but I want to hit a couple of more topics. I know that you actually, and people don't know this about you. I didn't know this about you until we started talking about it, but you actually help advise companies on product development, right? Brainstorm new ideas with them. How did that start? How did you get into that? And are you the one responsible for my brackets I use, Alyssa?
I am not. That is not me. I wish it was. No, that's not me. I kind of back to that problem and solution thing. I love brainstorming. I love critical thinking. I love problem solving. And so I know this is something you're really great at, Glenn, is if someone presents something to you, even though I'm a super positive person, I'm like, okay, that's great. Here's some things I think that can make this even better. Or here's a frustration I'm having in my practice. Would there be a way to develop this to make our lives easier? And so, just through discussions as simple as that with companies and things, and then they take those ideas, or when they're developing a product now, they'll a lot of times ask me to review it, give them feedback, and then they go back to the drawing board, come back, and that fuels my soul. Like that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
Love. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like playing with a Tinker Toy.
It is.
Right?
I love it.
Just create something good that'll help people.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of creating things, I need you to tell me about Ohio. No, I'm kidding. Oklahoma. ODO. I need to know what ODO is.
Okay. ODO is On Demand Orthodontist. It's a brand new company, and it was started by a wonderful friend of mine, Judge Johns, and a wonderful mentor of mine, Dr. John Warford. And Dr. Warford lives in a very rural area and has patients that drive 4 to 6 hours to see him.
Wow.
And so he had to really think about the way he treats patients to minimize appointments, remote monitoring, things like that. And what he wanted to do originally was try to be the orthodontist for these patients and put them in our hands and help the best care. But if something happens, like, can he help someone more local to them? Maybe if there's a dentist or someone more local, help oversee that treatment in case there's an emergency or something, where they're not driving 4 or 6 hours for little things. And I think that's where his brain kind of originally started. And maybe you should do a podcast with him and find out.
I'd love to. Introduce me, and he'll be a future guest.
I would love to. But what it really is it's a company that from beginning to end is going to help us delegate something else in our lives that I think is a frustration for a lot of people. So as we go more into this digital world, all of us are aware that there's increased screen time with that. And even though I think many of us are working less clinical days, those increased screen hours don't seem to seem okay. Like it's like, oh, I'm working less clinical days, but I want those days to myself.
Right.
And so this company will help you as an orthodontist submit the records and kind of some treatment notes, and then they will fully do the setup for you, all the notes about the treatment. So they'll tell your team, okay, you need to bring the patient back at tray 21 for IPR, check the vertical bite opening at tray 18 and see if we've gotten the correction before we start overcorrecting the curvus spee, add attachments here, and like step-by-step treatment, everything, including your setups, all the thinking and the brain work, and take that screen time away from you, as well as kind of guide and get you a system for your practice. And it's going to be super cool. It's brand new and has so much more to be developed, but keep your eyes out for it, and maybe they'll have a booth at Orthopreneurs this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. So essentially, they're creating the treatment plans. They're creating the treatment alerts. They're creating the staging. They're basically allowing you to get the peek into a mind of somebody who's doing it really well, so that you can see it, learn it, and I guess the approach would be long term to wean you off of it.
Correct. And so that's the thought, is eventually like you may be able to do it better yourself because you learn their systems, or maybe you just want to keep doing it because you're growing and they're helping you so much. But it's all also on dental monitoring, remote monitoring, and they'll even do your remote monitoring for you. So they'll manage the dashboard, and then if they see an issue, they'll put in your team's dashboard what you need to take care of for that patient. And so in my opinion, and this is not a negative thing, this is a positive thing. So I don't want any young orthos out there to think this is against them. This is actually an amazing thing. I think it's going to help doctors help themselves before they hire associates, and help because we hire associates because we don't have enough time. And if this helps with our time, then I think that will delay that hiring of an associate.
So if somebody wants to learn more about ODO, and I have no financial interest whatsoever with them, where would somebody go?
Neither do I. They have a website, and On Demand Orthodontist, and
ondemandorthodontist.com.
Yes, or you can text me or message me on Facebook, and I will directly loop you into a text message with Judge Johns.
Well, I didn't want you to become the orthodontist on demand. I figured the easiest way is to go to their website. But yeah, I mean, it seems like everybody in ortho knows who Alyssa Carter is, and I've really appreciated the time we've had so far because we're almost done. Unless, is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything we didn't bring up?
No, I'm good. I'm having a blast. I'm always inspired by you and all the work that you do. No, I am, for all the things you do for our profession. And well, I guess there's something I want to add here. I appreciate all the things you've said. You know, you do this and everyone knows you, or your practice is successful and you travel. And those things are so insignificant in my life, which sounds crazy. What's significant in my life is relationships and people, and I have a lot of credit to give to a lot of people in our profession for just kind of taking me under their wing and helping me build up and allowing me to believe in myself. And yeah.
And now you're doing it for others, which is awesome.
I'm still gaining from others too. So,
and I love seeing you. I mean, we must see each other at least 6 to 8 meetings a year, it seems, of some sort. But here's my final question to you. Ready? Because I think everybody who knows you really knows that you are much more than travel. You are much more than CE. We know you as a human being, and that's what draws everybody closer to you. But I have to ask the question, what is a travel destination that's on your bucket list? I want to know where Alyssa Carter has not gone that just sort of like motivates or excites her, to get there at some point. What is that spot?
So there's a lot, but one place I just want to go so bad because I think I would actually relax more than I normally do when I travel is the Maldives. And so I know
it's so funny you should say that.
It's so funny, right?
Yeah, no, for people out there who I saw, if you're looking at this on video, and yes, if you're listening to it, this is actually video as well. Her eyes went super wide because that's on my bucket list. And in the Orthopreneurs RD group, we're going to do one of our big annual meetings in the Maldives in 2024. And I just, it's like having a conversation with you here, like nobody else is listening. But I just spoke I just spoke to the travel agent, and I want to stop in Dubai on the way so we can stay in that 7-star hotel for 2 nights and have a lecture. So I think you're down for that one, but that'll be early 2024. So for anybody out there who's not a part of Orthopreneurs RD, if you can join from the geographic exclusivity and you do want to join and end up going for CE in the Maldives and Dubai, just text me or message me and I can talk to you about it. But Alyssa, as it always happens, when I'm around you, I'm just in a good mood, as is everybody else who's around you. We all love you. We all appreciate you. We are all inspired by your positivity and what it is you're doing on a daily basis, because you truly, genuinely, and I'm not just throwing this out there to make you feel better, you're genuinely more productive than anybody on the planet that I've ever met, including CEOs. And when, I always tell people that in life, I want to grab life with both hands and shake every drop out of it. And every time I think I'm doing it and I feel great about it, which I do, I look at you and I'm just in awe, because you are wringing every single drop out of life and enjoying every second of it. And I am just so impressed by you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me and for doing this podcast for all of us and the profession. Oh,
it's my pleasure. And I can't wait till the next ride back to my house in the giant truck, because it's
from
amazing.
Austin.
It's amazing. Yeah, from Austin. Yeah, we have to decide at Summit. Are we all going to drive? That would be by the way, before I let you go, we have to do that. Like a giant road trip of everybody from Dallas who's going to Summit gets in the back. We're going to look like workers traveling. Down, right over to Austin. And only if we stop at Buc-ee's.
We can stop at Buc-ee's. I can get my dent fluid there.
All I'm going to tell everybody as we're about to sign off, I like to think of myself as a Texan now, right? As George Bush Jr. used to say, I'm a Texan by choice, not by chance, right?
Love it.
And so now that I'm a Texan and you're a Texan, we have to give them 2 little secrets: that when you drive from Dallas to Austin or Austin to Dallas, there are 2 places you have to stop. I'll be curious to see if you know the second. The first, everybody, you must stop at a Buc-ee's somewhere in your life. Would you agree? Everybody's got to stop at a Buc-ee's.
Stop at Buc-ee's.
And can you explain real quickly as a Texan, why does somebody have to stop at a Buc-ee's at some point?
It's an experience.
Well said. It is a fun, great experience. And you're going to drop, in addition to your gas, you're going to drop $100.
I was just about to say at least $100.
You're going to drop $100. I'm just telling you. And the second place, is there a second place you like to stop on your way to Austin? Because there's one that I got turned on by Dr. Sherry that he stops at every time. And it's amazing.
Is it the check stop?
The check stop. How funny is that? It's so funny. We got a squeal out of you there on that one. That was great because the check stop, and it's not spelled CHECK. It's CZ, right? It's Czechoslovakian, right? CZECH. And it's like, if you try to tell somebody what it is, you say, well, it's a gas station, but there's no gas, right? But it's an amazing Czech bakery that I think is south of Waco, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's
West Texas, which I think is 15 minutes outside of Waco. It's either north or south, right on it.
Yes.
I think it's actually north of Waco.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
we're going to have to find out who's right. But I'm just telling everybody, if you've gotten nothing else out of this podcast episode, positivity, efficiency, happiness, culture, team, all that, throw it out the window.
Check in the Buc-ee's is way better than anything else we talked about.
Who needs positive? Would you trade a team member a month for a trip to Buc-ee's, right? It's a tough call, right?
My team will kill me. But
I would never do it.
Drive there if I'll pay for it.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm sorry this podcast is going long, but I've got to ask another question. When you go to Buc-ee's, Alyssa, what's the item you have to have?
I love beef jerky. So
beef jerky. Yeah. The beaver nuggets for me.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, they're amazing. But anyway,
that's a good one.
Yeah. So you got to go to Check Stop and you got to go to Buc-ee's. That's all you need to know from this podcast episode. Yep. So it's been a joy, Alyssa, and can't wait to see. I'm sorry I'm going to miss you in August in LA at the Airway meeting. But in April, I mean. Okay. But I know I will see you in September at Summit, and hopefully we can see each other before then. Yeah, we got to see each other before then. So have a great weekend, and thank you for being here today. I know everybody appreciates it.
Thank you.